Okay, here we go. Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of the Typical Skeptic podcast. I have an awesome guest with me today. She's a regular on my show. She's also a regular on Rex Week Project with Rex Bear. That's where I found out about her. And I have with me Ellen King. She's with the Era of My Ways YouTube channel, and she's with she also has the website Ellen's Art, and she's an artist. She's an esoteric researcher. She works on movie sets, which is pretty cool. And she knows a lot about like esoteric and occult information. I mean, she like a lot of my subscribers constantly ask to get her back on the show. People want to hear what she has to say. So, with all that said, I'd like to give her a big warm welcome back to the show. Ellen, thanks so much for coming back on. How are you?
Hey, Rob, thank you again for having me. I know
Yeah,
we've been misconnecting, but it's been good. It's everything in divine timing, I guess.
yeah. I mean, my subscribers definitely wanted to see this show because they reminded me a couple of people reminded me the other day. They said, "Get a hold of Ellen." I said, "Yeah, that's right." And I'm glad we were able to do this. So this is really awesome.
Yeah, no, it's good to, share information, especially in these times where we're revealing about just about everything that can be revealed, I guess.
Yeah, right. And it seems like a lot's going on right now with the way you put it earlier from when we were talking on the phone. It seemed like there's a lot to talk about, right?
There is so much. It's very imperative. That's why I hope that I can get invited to other shows because I think that some of us are kind of like messengers. I don't know. I'm not special, but I've learned to go within for answers and also connectivity and, doing the research. This is why we've been called conspiracy theorists, is so that it puts a shame label on us for the people who do critical thinking and start connecting dots. So one of the main dots that I've connected recently is this whole notion of the artificial intelligence that they want to put inside of us. This is what 2020 lockdowns were about. They were using everybody as a guinea pig in a grand experiment to put the internet inside. That's why it's internet. They tell us everything with words, but a lot of times we're not truly paying attention because they use double speak. This is what the double-headed Janus figure is. When you see any kind of figure with two different heads, they're looking in two different directions, which means they can also speak in two different ways. And if you're not getting the message, then that's your problem, not theirs. So basically what is happening is Harvard has recently released a statement regarding the cryptoterrestrials that have advanced technology that live beneath the ground. They also fly in UFOs, and some of them are actually intelligent ancient dinosaurs. What does that tell us? That tells us that reptilians are real. I know 3 people that have seen them, and more people are starting to see weird cryptids upon the earth right now. And if you want to find out more about this, you can actually do a research on cryptoterrestrials. You'll see all of the different websites that this has been spoken about. It's like they're doing a soft disclosure without actually telling you in the mainstream media, because the reptilians or whatever hybrids or whatever is controlling this world right now, it's their world. They are rising into our government and the positions of government. So everything out here is connected. And I'm one of those people to help people see the connecting points. I've actually done research in law, what true law is. And there's a reason why our natural law, which is common law, supersedes that of corporate law. Corporate law is for corpse orations. They are dead speaking entities. There's a reason why they are this, why they're called these things. We're using words and terms that, again, mean two different things, but we don't do our due diligence in researching where these words and terms come from. What is it that we're dealing with upon the earth? Why is everything being poisoned? Why are we not only, wearing clothes that are harmful with our frequency, but why are our skies, water, air, everything is poisoned? And we have been part of this ritual to bring about this dark force that is now taking over our world. And they come from beneath the ground. So based on all of my research, this is where it goes. And I can even show you where I read like a lot of these grimoires and things where they're actually doing these rituals. And I sent you that link, Rob, today regarding JPL Labs, how Jack Parsons, he was actually doing rituals to summon the entity called Babylon. And Jack Parsons actually deemed himself the Antichrist to bring Babylon upon the earth during this time. So, I mean, we are talking about how these rich oligarchs were placing themselves and opening up different portals, because we are a dimensional portal, but we don't ever see it that way. Our blood is very special. We can go up or we can go down. And with our choices, a lot of these people who have been in these secret societies, they've been summoning these dark principles and powers upon the earth right now. And so this is what happens time and time again based on the wheel of time called the zodiac, because as we obtain the most high knowledge in this existence, which is the knowledge of high magic, this is what the Bible speaks of. People don't know how to read the Bible. They think it's actually a story about people. It's not about people. It's about the celestial heavens and about different alignments and different events to come. It is based in the zodiac, basically, which is astrotheology based. And this is a lot of information, but I'm trying to cram this in within an hour.
I just wanted to say, I just real quick, I heard that too, that Jack Parsons had opened up a portal because someone had made the point that around that time you started seeing a lot more like aliens come into our reality, like, from wherever they were coming in through, because, and a lot of people thought it was because Jack Parsons and Aleister Crowley opened up a portal of some sorts, and they were trying to do this Babylon sex magic, thing where they took a woman out to the desert and abused her or something crazy like that. And they brought in some kind of weird sex child that they thought would be like the Antichrist. Did you hear this? Like, that's like what I heard. I don't know.
Well, so you can listen to the channel Altrusian Grace Media. That's the link that I sent you to your phone earlier. I don't know if you had time to listen.
I didn't have time to look at it yet, but I will.
Yeah. It's about an hour long, and it is basically the notebook from Jack Parsons and the ritual that he used to summon Babylon. And this can be very confusing to a lot of people who are not initiated into a lot of the words and terms that they use. But magical practice is available to everybody who wishes to study it. And the intentions are what is the most important thing to note about magical practice. You are a magical being. Everyone's a magical being. We operate within this sphere of influence of Saturn, which is a physical, dense reality. And Saturn offers us time and space. We cannot go through the firmament because we do not operate in that frequency band. We're only within a specific band of frequency. And the only way to go up into the other heavens is to leave your body behind. Your body is materialistic and it belongs with Saturn's realm, which is also known as Satan. This is what people fear, is knowledge. And if I could just, try to implore people to breach the subjects of some of this magical practice, people could understand where this problem that we have in the world is actually coming from, because they have opened the gates of hell. I believe CERN is connected to this, and the gates of hell they've been digging away at it for a very long time. The black crude oil, the oil that we call it black crude oil, it is actually a river of lead, and that river of lead is connected to Saturn. Now, there were actually some sheikhs from Saudi Arabia who deal with this black oil. There was one on camera that said that black river is from the land of Gog and Magog, and that it is not from ancient dinosaurs and all of these lies that we've been made to believe. And I believe him because of all of the esoteric and occult things that I've been studying. So, when we're dealing with this crude oil, we've been putting it and creating plastics. We've been using it in all of our products, materials, clothing, housing. Literally, our entire world is Saturnian and bringing in more Saturnian energy, which is deadly to us. This is why we are sick and dying. They put it in pharmaceuticals. They put it in literally everything. But we cannot figure that out, which is, very sad that people can't just research what goes into pharmaceuticals, what goes into the products that we eat, all these chemical fertilizers, chemical additives to food products. All of these things are based on petroleum distillates that actually are used to extract different mineral contents, and it makes us sick. But we have not come to this point of awareness yet. And I'm that person. I'll just put myself out on a limb. I'm not I don't have like millions of followers, so I'm not dangerous to what their program is right now, the darkness that of everything that they're doing. But from what I've learned based on my research with all of this UFO phenomena is that our government, a faction of the Dark Brotherhood government, had gone underground and made these contracts with these beings. And so if you learn about what Satan actually represents, which is also Saturn, when you're talking about Satan, it's always Saturn and vice versa. That is a lord of contracts. So why do we have to make all these contracts when we're actually dealing with online platforms and apps and all these things? Because we are actually making contracts with what people would call the devil. The operations that have been happening underground for so very long is that these humans have made contracts with these entities that dwell beneath the ground. That's why Harvard is, doing this soft disclosure about this phenomena. Like, where are the UFOs coming from? We've been questioning this for so long, and now the answer is coming. They do not come from outer space. Outer space is right here, right now, in this realm, in time and space, because they're telling you, even with the word alien, the word alien was only used in sci-fi context back in 1953. Go look in the etymology of all of these words. Where do these words and concepts come from? And what I've determined with all of this space alien narrative is that it is a cover to blanket over the information that's been here and known through the different indigenous tribes throughout the world about Xibalba and the underworld, places that we have not been taught because we have amnesia. We've actually been brought to this country to repopulate this country. There were indigenous tribes here and they wiped them out because they wanted the knowledge gone, apparently, because this is what it seems to be leading up to, is that they're preparing this nation in particular for this entity called Ahriman, which is basically the devil, to come and incarnate during this epoch, which is the age of Aquarius. Now, I'm basically thinking that after 1,000 years, we're going to have a golden age, because this is all in the astrotheology charts and symbolism of those charts, if you know how to read the signs that it has. We're going to have 1,000 years of a golden age, because in Saturnalia, there's actually a moment where the peasants become the ruling class and the ruling class become the peasants. So that's what we're seeing now. We're witnessing this grand design where there's this orchestration of all of the elite are being called out for their actions of, crimes against humanity, but yet, we're starting to also see these new digital currencies come online that are going to rescue us from this dark deceptive force. When in actuality, until people actually see nature as the escape, like the exit door, and to escape into nature alone and try to, rebuild a world based on the foundations of philosophy, we're going to be enslaved and trapped into this matrix design that is from the cryptoterrestrials. Like, all of the technology we're embracing comes from underground, because how else could we have gotten such grand technology so quickly in a short amount of time? And we're still driving around in these cars, that use gasoline, and the electric cars are a lie. There's so many different deceptions that are still happening.
I got a question. So do you think the whole UFO phenomenon, like, or not that the whole UFO phenomenon, but like the fact that they're from outer space is like a lie? And what are your thoughts on space? Because I have people who come on my show who say they've been to space. They think they've been using these black, dark programs. And I don't doubt them. I'm just thinking, well, maybe they've been taken to another dimension or something, or maybe they're being used somewhere. I don't know. What are your thoughts on all that stuff? Like, the fact that, like, are UFOs coming from another dimension? Do you think space is real? And then the people that might have been used in some of these black ops programs. Sorry, that's a lot.
Yeah, no, so I've been suspicious about this whole Martian narrative that they've been spinning too, because I watched some of the Billy Carson's videos, like probably 5 or 6 years ago, where he was actually doing a slide presentation based on NASA's photos that had Venus and Mars. With Venus had trees and had towers coming out of the trees, and then Mars was a desert that had an SUV. in the background. And it's such a joke because when you look at some of the imagery, people have even been revealing the truth that the Mars rover, all they do is they use Hollywood style magic where they put a different lens on a camera and they take it out to a desert somewhere and they start filming this Mars rover thing. But somebody actually took the photo from NASA where the Mars rover was and actually showed the desert over in Australia. And it was the same landscape. You could tell. I mean, some of these things have been done time and time again. I mean, Wadi Rum, I'm sure they use that over there in Jordan. And, any desert across the world, they can use as a Mars landscape. But what I suspect with Mars is that it's actually underground, along with all of these other places that we're thinking of. When we're talking about the universe, we're talking about a one voice, one sound system that is right here as different overlays of energy. Just like with the Venus sphere. If you look into the Tibetan Book of the Dead, for example, they talk about the different colors that are attached to our chakra system, and that the Venus sphere is actually the world of nature and where nature resides. So it's the trees, it's the plants and animals. And, when you're at a body, you can go there mentally, you can go there and see things. But also when you die, if you are attracted to the color green, you will manifest as an animal. But even in that notion, if you just take the word heart, so the heart chakra is green, and the word heart, if you put the H at the end of the word, it becomes the word earth. Now, the throat chakra is blue. If you look up at the sky is blue for a reason. And it rains from the sky, right? So you also can consider that when you swallow, it is like rain coming down to, the rest of the body. And it's the same thing. If you look at the entire construct that we call Earth, with all of its different components, you have lava underneath the ground, which can be the orange, yellow. Well, yellow is supposed to be the sun, but the orange and the red are underground with the lava flows and such. And listen, like, there's weird stuff apparently under the ground, and we've been made to forget it. Now, Jacques Vallée was a person who was actually overlaying the UFO phenomena with the myths and legends of old about the fairies and fairyland and such, and how they would actually exchange these wheat cakes in fairyland, for different things. And then also with the UFO phenomena, there's been also this exchange of wheat cakes. So, he was like trying to philosophize it more. I'm just outright, my philosophy meter's like, I just want to get cut to the chase. I'm not going to try to fluff anything. This is the information that I found. I encourage people to go and find it themselves too, because I believe that there is a narrative here that's being spun that is a story for people with delicate minds who cannot think for themselves to actually just grab onto. Now, I have also noticed that there's a lot of disinformation associates and agents online that are giving about 80 to 90% truth, spun around with some fiction. Because, I feel like this moment in time is a chance for us to truly learn the discernment from within. I have been able to connect only because of my connection with Dolores Cannon's work, doing QHHT sessions, helping people with their hypnosis sessions, connecting with their past lives, because I believe that will show people that the things that are inside of them are true, even if it seems like the most fantastical information. But there is a book that people can read to try to open up their minds that is based in fact, and it's called The Complete Works of Charles Fort. That book is about all of the recorded history of all of the strangest phenomena that has happened worldwide. And I'm telling you, that book will open your mind to a new reality about what this existence is.
That's who they named the word Fortean after. Like a lot of people, they call themselves Fortean researchers. That was named after the guy, Charles Fort. And Fortean usually means like paranormal, cryptozoology, like weird stuff. You know what I mean? Like,
cool. Yeah, I didn't know that, but that's awesome. Yeah. So that that is a good book to just crack open the mind and open it up to the possibilities that are actually here, that we are actually living in an existence that is a dense holographic reality, and anything is possible. I have witnessed my own Mandela effect days. I have witnessed time travel. My spirit is trying to show me the truth in subtle ways from time to time.
You
And
want to hear the craziest Mandela effect? And I don't know if this is actually a Mandela effect, but this was insane when I saw this today. So one of my friends posted on Facebook that P. Diddy has a book out called The Adrenochrome Witch, which he made in 2017. Who knew? Like, wouldn't this have all like caught the conspiracy community's eye and said, wait a minute, why is P. Diddy why is a rapper making a book called that? I can't even say that word because YouTube will take the video down. But I mean, like, the A word or whatever. But I mean, like, that would have came into the public spot. Somebody would have noticed that before. Like, how did we not know? How did nobody notice that? Now they're catching this weirdo with baby oil and he's a human trafficker. And like, it's just like, it's insane, like I never thought that. I mean, I didn't have any clue that he wrote that book. What?
I've never heard of that, but I have heard of how the word church came about. So the word church is actually from the word kirk that was in Scotland. It was how they named, I guess, a church. It was called Kirk, Kirk. Before that, it was called Circe. And Mother Circe was a witch who was known for her pharmakia practice. And pharmakia is drugs and sorcery, which is black magic.
Yeah.
She would turn men into animals. So that is something for other people to go and research, where all of this notion of the church comes from. The actual Bible is actually astrotheology in its core. It is not a story about people. It is a astrological book. It's about different celestial alignments in the planetary bodies, but they've labeled them as people. Just like the Archangel Michael and Gabriel and all this, you will find these entities in magical practice because they are the planetary bodies and they get named different things throughout time and different countries. So, what are we dealing with? We're dealing with the greatest story on earth that is actually magical practice, and it deals with the celestial heavens and the alignments of the constellations.
Yeah.
So
That's so crazy about that. The church, I never knew that. Like, I never knew that. I knew the word pharmakia meant, drugs, basically. Like, it's like the Greek word for pharmacy. But that's insane. Like, do you think she was really turning men into animals? And like, do you think
yes,
some witches have that full
yes.
power?
Yes, let me tell you, when you get deep into alchemy, when you get deep, just like skinwalkers, you can make a pact with the devil. There's many different entities out here, spirit entities that can do many different things. They are in the astral plane. They know time and space. They know all of the different events that can happen. So you can summon them to gain power. This is what has happened in the past. This is what happened to Atlantis. And, all of these things where people gain so much knowledge and so much power, they collapse the entire world civilization. That's kind of where we're headed now with all of this technology that we have. But
Yeah.
and if you study the old alchemists and what they could do, you realize that they were actually creating diminutive humans without sex. This is just lab ingredients. You can take some semen, you can take a few different alchemical knowledge about different celestial alignments and moon phases and different things of this nature, and you can create life. So, and it's intelligent life. So it has everything to do with the moon, the sun, and the stars, which we call planets. This is why we have them in our chart. And I do suspect that we were created as a slave race to bring about this dark force upon the earth, because we have a reptilian brain stem. We also shed our skin, and we have a tail when we're in an embryonic phase. So with all of these things, it's like, okay, so who created us?
Yeah,
God.
right.
Yeah, so if you get into the Norse cosmology, dog, was a serpent beneath the ground who actually gnawed at the roots of the Yggdrasil tree, which means it was basically always trying to get at the light. And, obviously jealous, I guess. I don't know. If you make dark choices, you get to a point where you can't can't create with light anymore. This is what I've learned about alchemy. Alchemy is the science that we need to restore in our world in order to comprehend absolutely everything about the truth about what is happening around us. All these entities did was break out alchemy down into fractions and then relabel it into other parts. They're calling it pharmaceuticals, they're calling it science, they're calling it chemistry, they're calling it all these different things, but it is in its utmost form alchemy. And it's most important to learn this because it has the answers and solutions to every problem in existence if we just comprehend it.
Yeah. I was trying to think if I've had any questions. So what is it? I was going to say, so do you think we have any evidence as to how we were created? Or like, I mean, do you think we can believe the Sumerians that say that are like, I mean, because that seems to be somewhat, but then it seems like there's a creation myth story all over, if you go all over the world, different, like Africa has a creation story, South America,
So listen to this story. Most of these indigenous cultures, think of it from this angle, because this is something that just kind of came into my awareness. The indigenous cultures say that they were saved by the ant people. Now, the ant people have been described as the Greys, and the Greys have been described as being not so beneficial. But the ant people basically repopulated the earth with humans. This is what has been told in the story, is that the indigenous tribes were brought back to the surface via the ant people. And in Brazil, I don't know if you saw that interview with the Brazilian tribes people where they were talking about the Mancuna Wabu that they were shown a picture of. And it was basically a gray alien that they said, no, this is Mancuna Wabu, and this is a very dangerous creature. This is a dangerous being. And it will take your soul through the light of Nishipan if you mess with it. So
what did they mean by that? What's Nishipan?
I believe it's also that light that you see, when you see the UFOs and they're beaming cows and they're beaming different things through walls. I actually have a book that explains how to beam people through walls. And it's the book Yahweh.
What is it? What is it? What do you do?
It's a very scientific formula that is in this book that is called Yahweh. It's the Keys of Enoch book that I bought years ago. I think that book is very expensive now. But in the middle of the book, it explains how the science behind beaming people through walls, which means it's explaining possibly that light of Nishipan.
Wow.
And, I just think that this existence is stranger than we can imagine. But I do believe that if we start to dig into the lore of myths and legends of old, that we will find the answers that we're looking for, that will connect all of these dots for us. And that these indigenous cultures around the world are still aware. If there's still tribes people around, like in Brazil and other places, they are still aware of these entities that live beneath the ground in big cities. And we're the ones who've been made to forget with all this modern day society that we're now living in, which I see as a complete and utter fallacy. We're paving over paradise, putting up parking lots, making more roads, making more buildings. The corporate entity is upon the lands and will rule over us for the next 4,000 years. This is already dictated in the Wheel of Time. But the age of Aquarius is where man merges with machine and becomes a cyborg. And then as he becomes a cyborg and loves to have all of these special abilities, he's actually going to be suffering very greatly for his choices, because he will not be able to sleep. He will not be able to rest. His mind will always be on or at the whim control of this dark power and this dark force. So the soul will be controlled and owned by Saturnian forces. Is the ultimate goal for the age of Aquarius. That's what this technology represents. It is a black cube. We're looking at a black mirror when we're looking at this technology, where we can divine into the past, present, and future with this technology. And that's what black scrying mirrors were used for. Now, they were typically made of an obsidian stone that was polished, that you could sit and meditate with and actually divine for information from different ethereal beings. But right now we've got all of this information and power at our fingertips. Now, what are people doing with it? A lot of people are just filling their brain with nonsense. I'm trying to educate myself to a higher level to comprehend how to exit this matrix with my entire soul intact. And what I've found is that since our voice is light and our command is the command of God, and our free will choice to choose our path is at our design and our disposal, I've realized that we can actually make a contract with ourselves and outwardly to the universe to state that all contracts that we have made within this existence throughout this space and time and to the end of my existence in this experience are null and void at my exit. And that way it breaks all karmic laws, breaks all of the different things that are here. These things are possible because we have the power of creation, which is light, and that comes from our voice. So, the sound frequency is the highest capability in this existence, is the highest power around. It's what moves all things, especially matter. We can command matter to our design. We actually have that power embedded within us to work with the alchemy of the four elements within and without the physical form. And that's what these oligarchs have been doing for so long, but they decided to go beyond just the lower magic, which is considered the working with the alchemy of the four elements, and go into the celestial magic, which is considered high magic. And that's the highest obtainable knowledge in this existence. It's been stated by Franz Barden and other magical practitioners. And, they do say all of these things with a word of caution. That's why people need, if you're going to be looking for this kind of path, you need an adept to guide you and to make sure that your heart is centered and balanced, because people are so fallible. They are corruptible by greed and malice and jealousy and all of these things, because that's the reptilian aspect that we have. We're not angelic, but our goal is to try and become angelic. And that's only by bringing the sun into the light of your life into your heart, which is what Jesus is supposed to represent. We're supposed to become the love and shine brightly with truth and with upstanding virtues. But people don't look at, building virtues right now because we're in this Saturnian energy phase. So it's hard.
Wow, this is deep. This is a lot of deep information. I'm trying. We've only been going a half hour. Is there anything else you wanted to share? I'm trying to think of what we talked about earlier. So, what about more of this information about everything that's coming from underground? What do we know about that? Like, do we know? Is that what other people are starting to think as well?
Yeah, so I mean, there are different people that are saying this. This is on independent channels and things I've come across where people are actually, in a kind of like just a group session where they're talking about, sharing these ideas and concepts. And some people are really on this notion that they're coming from underground. I suspect this after diving into all of what is said by people like Plato, Ptolemy, Pythagoras, in how they describe the cosmic design to be. And it's basically a cosmic egg, which is also the Norse cosmology design. It's a cosmic egg. And based in all of the imagery that I've found regarding the designs of the cosmology of Earth, according to Hebrew, according to South American, it is a dome it's like an egg shape because it looks like an egg standing on its end. So on the point part. And
Yeah.
as it goes down towards the point, you get denser in your existence, which is why we can't go there. It's too dense for us. But then that's where a lot of these entities can come from. And this is how I think CERN is operating. I think that they've opened up a portal, because apparently all of those portals that were open to the world for us to traverse and go to different countries and things without having to, get on a boat or fly in a UFO, we just walked through an open portal and we could go from place to place. And that all of those were closed, at some point. And it's because of all of this crazy stuff that men bring about on Earth during the times of the end of the golden age. The last golden age was from the ages of Gemini, Taurus, and Aries. And that's a span of over 6,000 years. And at the end of Aries, which Aries is ruled by the god of war, which is Mars, they were fighting and battling over all of this knowledge and information. So they're using the celestial heavens. They're using the four elements of alchemy. They're probably employing the pyramids at this point to like zap each other. And I believe this nation and over there in the Middle East, I believe they were using the pyramids to just blast each other. And that's actually where the Grand Canyon came from. Because what's crazy is that we have a miniature Grand Canyon in Georgia. And that's called Providence Canyon. And then across in Alabama, there's an exact same scar with a different made up version of the story of how it was created. In Georgia, we have a version that's considered bad farming practices, which is like completely a joke. If you see this thing, if you look it up online, you'll be like, are you kidding me? This is a gouge in the earth and it's big. So there's no way that bad farming practices can dig, 100 feet down into the ground and then have this, it looks like a lightning blast or something. And when you look into the alchemy of the four elements, you find out that a pyramid represents fire. And maybe it was making electricity in the beginning for powering some other aspect or use, some other use, but they could potentially be used as weapon systems. And that's just from harnessing the natural elements of the earth. Now, there's also in occult teachings, there's these images where these people are aiming these different mirrors in different ways, and they're casting the beam in the direction towards ships and other things on the ground, and you're like, wow, what is that? What are they trying to tell us about some of the abilities? And maybe that's Greek fire, because they said the fire could burn underwater, and perhaps the beam was strong enough to where it could burn something that was under the water. I don't know. I don't have that capability to experiment with those types of things, but I have seen a video where a man took some sort of glass and he burnt a granite stone and made it melt. So that to me was proof that this whole meltology with Tartaria is real, and that they were able to use the power of the sun potentially as a beam, a laser beam, to use focused energy and burn things to the ground.
Wow. And one question I have for you about the age of Aquarius, like I heard people that we were in Pisces right now, and then a lot of like esoteric people think that the age of Aquarius is supposed to be a new golden age, but you think differently, it seems like, or what do you think? You think it's going to be more negative?
No, so we're going to experience a very short golden age within this time. As we can see right now, we're reaching an age of enlightenment where people are becoming aware of everything because of the internet. It is a benefit and can be used as a benefit, but it's actually connected to very dark forces who are watching us through this lens. Now, so 1,000 years we will have of a beneficial miniature golden age, because there will be abundance. Again, if you study Saturnalia, you'll start watching all of the visual cues that are happening in our society right now. Saturn rules Earth during the age of Aquarius. This is the age of his joy. So his greatest joy means that this age is going to begin when we're not even in Aquarius yet. We probably have 200 years, because it's a slow, exit out of Pisces. We're in the crossing over phase from leaving Pisces to Aquarius. And it's probably going to take 200 years to fully integrate, but we're seeing the seeds planted for all of the benefit that's coming our way of universal basic income, all of this abundance, all of this wealth. We're not going to have to work anymore. Hollywood's even starting to tank. I'll just go ahead and put that out there. It's slowing down is all I know. It's evolving and changing because we're going into a new energy. We're going to be non-tangible because Aquarius is an air sign. So it's going to be all of mind, all of spirit. You got metaverse versus the metaphysical. And so, people are going to be drawn to different facets of this dynamic of energies that we're now being immersed with. And so they're going to get us fully immersed in this new technology as a digital age. that you're going to have to use this digital money. Some of it is going to be tangible and asset backed. That's what Russia is now trying to bring about upon Earth, is that it's going to be asset backed, gold standard and silver standard currencies that are attached to this quantum money that they're coming up with. Now, we don't yet have that access in this country to that quantum system, but it's coming. And I believe Trump Card, who is not necessarily a good person, I believe he is the light in the darkness to bring the essence of goodness to our lands over here in America. And that is going to actually be a control system, a means of control by the dark forces, who will then come back after 1,000 years, because we're seeing this dynamic happen in waves where it's light and dark. There's waves that happen in 20-year spans of time. There's waves that happen in 80-year spans of time, and other waves, that are 1,500, just different waves of energy that take us on this ride that operate in a seasonal fashion. If you gain the eyes to see, there's a book called The Fourth Turning that explains that this guy noticed that there's 80-year cycles where every 20 years there's a different kind of energy, like a seasonal energy, where it's spring, summer, winter, or fall. And he's noticed these patterns in timelines, and it's true. So as we progress, it's going to be this ebb and flow, just like the ocean, where we gain awareness and knowledge and power, and then we recede and the dark force takes over. And then it's like this eternal battle of tug of war. But the awareness needs to be high. We have to have the moment to be able to come into awareness of ourselves and our world and how it truly works. For those who are truly seeking, I would say, because not everybody's seeking that. Some people are seeking to merge with the machine. That's all about the free will of the soul. So for myself, I want to skip that trap, because I think you just get recycled. Like, it's a way to hold you in space and time for, 1,000 years or more. And then eventually maybe something lets you out of that cube, which is what this, this machine represents, on our phone and everything else. But if you notice, the internet right now has so much information. It's so distracting. People get hung up on all of the silly stuff. And that's fun. I love watching the animal videos because they give you that warm, fuzzy feeling. But I have to bring myself back into this game where it's like, okay, now I need to study. So I focus on truth, and I focus on trying to bring forth knowledge to people, to try to say, hey, look, for those who are interested, here's some awareness for you. Here's something to chew on, because we are going to have our time in the sun later on down the line, after the wheel of time gets around to whatever the next moment of our incarnation is. We choose that, apparently, when we're not in this corporeal form. We choose our next incarnation, and we choose the design of the life that we wish to live, apparently. I mean, this is what the kind of gist is. But I believe that at some point, there's those of us who will manifest as teachers in the future to help, we'll philosophize or whatever it is that we are interested in, it to help others learn and to help grow their soul to a higher plane of existence of an awareness of knowledge. And that's really what this whole cycle is about. And whether it is part of a machine learning or what, I don't know. I can't say that we're in a machine already, maybe we are. And that's been thought of, because of the Matrix and stuff. So it just seems like there's weird moments in time that have happened for myself where, like, I was 15 and I knew that I would be a part of some big event on the horizon of my life, but I didn't know what it was. And I was still wet behind the ears back at age 15. So what did I know? I didn't know anything, but it was weird how I had an epitome moment where it was like, I stopped dead in my tracks and I'm like, I'm going to be a part of some big thing, on the horizon of my life. And then I just went about my day. It was weird. And then when I was about 27, I had a moment where, I'm just going about my day, and all of a sudden I'm hit with this notion that I'm going to be around famous people, but I'm not going to be like friends with them. They're not going to be, my friends in that capacity, but I'm going to be around famous people. So how do you explain these things? I mean, maybe that is part of the Matrix. I don't know. It's strange.
It is. It is. It's weird how we know like our future. It's almost like is our future predetermined in some way,
Mhm.
you know? I've often thought that, and I've often thought like if I've ever like came back and if I've lived this life before, because people say we reincarnate, but I feel like I've lived me before. Like I've been here in this exact situation, and I keep messing up, so I keep having to come back and like do something different, or I've at least done it once, you know. But I feel like I've been here more than once, you know. Like I feel like we may have had thousands. I mean, I'm talking like thousands of incarnations, and we just get memory wiped every time. You know what I mean? But people have bleed throughs. You know, people have. I mean, that's what I mean. I get these weird dreams. I've talked about this before, where like I'll be out for like 7 hours, 8 hours, but then I'm like in my dream, I'm like in like some weird like scenario, like where I'm living this other life, and I've talked about like where I've been on a farm, or like just like or I got like a scene of it seems like I'm in a scene of a movie, but it's my life, but I'm like I'm being around bad things, and like I'm being chased down or something, like. But then I wake up and it's only been 7 hours, but I feel like whatever time I was in that reality, I spent like 2 weeks. You know what I mean? Like, and I've asked so many people about this, and like I've tried to get people's opinions, because it seems like I literally like I'll be gone for weeks at a time, but then I'll wake up and it's only been like 5 hours, 7 hours, So it makes me
Yes.
think that we're going to parallel realities when we dream or something, or at least a somewhat form of them. I don't know. Like, what do you think about all that?
Yeah, no, I believe that's possible. So that's why I think that even diving into the Norse cosmology, and they talk about how these beings exist in a separate realm. I believe at some point, our consciousness, we can make our own world separate from the one we're currently in. I believe that's what it takes, is that a bunch of people together can create their own world away from what we call dystopia, away from what we call the serpent. I believe that's what's happened, and the consciousness creates the reality. This is what's been shown to me time and time again in my own world. So one of the greater aspects I think people can come into their awareness of is when things repeat themselves. If you are stuck in a cycle where some event constantly happens over and over and over, like right now for myself, I keep going back to Hollywood. I'm like, no, I want to do something else. What do I want to do? Well, I have to make that decision. I have to be the one to make the step, because my spirit is calling me to hit the dusty trail and to walk away from all of this, man-made construct world, and to just travel the world like a nomad without a home, because that's part of the lie that we live, is that we own something in this existence. We own nothing in this existence. This existence owns us. It owns our material body. It owns everything that we are except our soul, unless we give that up. So we have to kind of learn these things. This is where my mind is right now with all of this, is that I keep repeating a cycle. And I keep going back to work for Hollywood, which is not where I really want to be necessarily, because I've already done that. I've learned that, and it's time to move on. I feel like it consumes my life. It consumes my soul. I haven't been able to put up my own video on my own channel because I started back to work for Hollywood. I get up at 6 a.m. and I don't get home until like almost 9 p.m. sometimes. So, it's ridiculous. And I've said that I'm just going to be done with it, but I just want to implore that people, when you see a pattern in your life that repeats itself, whether it's a relationship or something, and you're like, why is this happening? Why do I not have any money? Why do I have that? There's something that you have to learn in order to make the game shift. We're in a game. And that's why they put the chessboard out, the checkerboard floor and all that. It's a game, and it's a game of light and dark. I believe the more you strive to be virtuous and bring in the light, the more connectivity you have to higher realms. This is what I've also learned for myself, is that I can connect to a higher aspect. I don't know if it's part of myself or someone else, some other entity, but I can connect to something else that's greater that will tell me things that I've been curious about. It's amazing. Like, it just goes, hey, by the way, this. And it's not to, give me any kind of power. It just gives me insight. So, I believe that if we got enough people together, we could co-create our own reality with protection and everything, and hide in this reality with that veil of protection through our
I got
mind.
a question about that. So do you feel like like I have a lot of people that come on my show that talk about the soul trap theory, that like when we leave here, the light's a trap and it recycles us, and that like, it's just like this whole simulation or whatever we're in is like a soul trap, right? Like, well, if you believe that, which I'm not sure if I do, but I'm really starting to lean that way. Like, I'm wondering if I don't go to the white light when I leave this reality, like if I choose to go somewhere else, like if I just, if I take my consciousness and go another way, like if I'll end up somewhere where I can create my own reality, or if I'll be in like a different universe or a different realm where the rules are completely different or something like that. Like, what do you feel about that? Like, what resonates with you?
Well, what resonates with me is talking with either tribal elders or reading books like the Tibetan Book of the Dead, finding out from those who have wisdom, those who still follow philosophies as a foundation of knowledge. I believe they have the wisest and most accumulated amount of knowledge that we could actually learn from. So, some places in India or wherever, somewhere where they still hold these values and knowledge sacred, is where I think we can find the answers. But the Tibetan Book of the Dead, for example, if you read that, you recognize the white light as yourself. You are all things because you are God. You are created from the white light. That's what we are doing here. It's like a projection. So if you can recognize that at the moment of your death, that the white light is yourself, then you don't go into this whole reincarnation thing. But
What
if
do you
you do,
mean by that? Like, you recognize that the white light is me, so I don't have
yes.
to merge with it?
So yeah, so it actually does something where it switches you into some other reality. Like, you recognize that that is you and that is you're part of that experience. You are all things because you are in all things. We have the capability of remote viewing through literally every object that's around on Earth, because we have that God spark. And so again, it also states that if you don't recognize that white light is yourself, you will then go to the next color and the next color and the next color. But if you desire any one of those particular colors, you will incarnate into that sphere of energy, which again, for example, the green sphere of light is nature. So you'll become an animal or a plant or something like that. This
Which
is in
one's the human sphere?
blue, the moon, because of the mood. We have the mood. The moon and the sun are our most valuable assets. And without them, if we were to go underground and live forever, we would lose the ability to procreate. We wouldn't be able to have children anymore. They've already done these experiments in science before. I read this article years ago that they put some women underground for like 90 days or so, and they lost their ability to actually ovulate. So, we need the moon and the sun. We need this sphere of energy, basically. It's like, if you can imagine, our body has auric fields that we cannot see. The
Yeah.
world is basically built the same. And the different planetary bodies are actually overlays of light frequencies in this existence. Yeah, they might be up in the heavens, but it's not what NASA and Hollywood have been portraying as space, because space is right here. This is a dense holographic reality because the earth and water are magnetic and the fire and air are electric. And this is what, when you start studying alchemy, and again, the foundation of alchemy, the alchemists, all of this stuff of the old ways, you begin to get it. You begin to get what they were talking about, and it starts to make sense. It makes more sense than what NASA has been explaining. And if you want to prove it to yourself, just go and look at some of the planets that NASA has put out. Look at all the different colors. Look at all the different sizes. Look at all the different artistry. They're made by different concept artists. A different artist has a different eye. So they make different things. And none of them are the same. And then you have people who are exposing all the green screens and stuff with NASA because it's all a lie. And then, of course, the moon landings that were faked. And you have all the astronauts that come back and they're not excited about going to the moon. They're all depressed looking. They're all somber and sitting there in their interview, and they're just sitting there saying, yeah, well, yeah, we went to the moon. Well, they were silenced because I know, because I work for Hollywood, you sign a non-disclosure agreement no matter what show you go to. If you're going to be hired for Hollywood, non-disclosure agreement, which means you can be, penalized by thousands of dollars or thrown in jail or whatever they want to do to you if you breach the contract. That's again why I say, this Saturnian Satan Lord of Contract, he's going to get you to contract. I do not consent to contract. And I've learned law again, that even the laws that we abide by are corporate laws. They're not our laws. I've been to court twice over traffic citations. They don't apply to me or you or anybody else that's operating in a private capacity. Now, if you're operating in a business manner where you're getting paid to drive, then you're bound by those laws because you're operating in commerce. But I've been to court twice, and they want me out of their courtroom as quickly as possible, and they do not want to see me again.
Why? What do you say? How do I get out of it if I ever get in trouble? What do you say?
There's an actual process, and you have to do this yourself. I do not give legal, lawful, or any kind of advice like that, but there's a process, and I'll tell you really quickly because I know you got to go. There's a process where basically every citation you're ever given is an offer to contract. And since it's a corporate contract and living beings cannot go to court with corporate beings, this is another, fallacy. People need to learn this truth because it's very empowering when you know it. You can basically put under duress as a signature because nobody can tell you what your signature is. Then you can sign across the front, I do not consent, no contract, written in bold and red pen. Then you mail that back to the court with that green card that you get from the post office because you need proof that you mailed that thing back in. So there's a green card that's a return receipt requested. They have to sign it and send it back to you, proving that they received your letter, your contract back that said you don't consent to contract with them. Then you wait. You can either go to the court before your court date and just tell them, hey, I don't consent to contract. They'll probably get you out. I like to go to court because I want to show people the truth. And so I show up in court, and when I get called forward, I do not talk to them. I do not agree that that is my name because that is a dead entity in all capital letters. If you notice, all capital letters are found in a graveyard. That's because the larger your name is, like the larger the letters in your name, the less power you have. So this is a designation that has been understood for so very long. Now what you do is you just stand before the judge. And actually, I have not stood before a judge, which is weird because I think all the judges are gone right now. And I say, I do not consent to contract. And I say that I do not consent to these proceedings. I do not consent to these proceedings, and I do not consent to be surety for these proceedings. They shut me up as fast as they can because I'm about to go even further. I do not consent to be surety means that I am not going to be the insurance policy that somebody else needs to insure me because I'm going to demand the bond be brought forth so that I can see who will indemnify me if I am damaged. These are very powerful words, and it will shut down a courtroom point blank. They will try to, there's some people that say that they'll try to argue over you and threaten you and do all this because they're trying to scare you off of your pedestal that you've now become empowered. And they will do anything. If you just stand in silence, and if they ask you any question, you say, I do not consent to contract. A corporation cannot go to court with a living being operating in a private capacity, which is common law. We have more power than any corporation does in this existence. But right now, the corporations are becoming a corporatocracy where they're ruling over us. And they're going to claim, which they already have, barcoded all life and all plant life and all minerals and all that in this existence. Because the underworld is the corporate entity. They are ruling our world with the underworld and its laws. And we need to raise up and raise our awareness, gain more knowledge about our own existence and the powers of creation that actually are dominating forces in this existence, and know that these dead entities cannot rule over us as long as we stand in our power, which is common law and natural law. So here's the order. I'm going to do this very quickly for you. Natural law is the highest law. There's no other law besides God's law, which is the laws of nature and all of that, like gravity and all those things. Then common law is right under that. Those are man-made laws. Do no trespass, do no harm, and there's one other one. It's basically do no trespass. You don't harm somebody. You don't rob their property or anything like that. So then under that is corporate law, which is maritime law of the sea. This is military and corporate law. And common law is up here. This is what we need to realize. But it takes people knowing where they stand in their power structure, which is what the law is, the land, air, and water, of how to bring that power back into the hands and minds of the people so that they know that they can't be ruled upon. It's that
That's
simple.
amazing. I was wondering, so would that work if I had a fine that I've been paying on for a real long time, and I've been making payments on it? Could I just mail back in and be like, I do not consent to this anymore. I was under duress when this happened.
Well, it depends on what the fine is, because if you've already signed the contract, then you unknowingly or knowingly signed a contract to agree to pay the corporate entity that is basically a bank. All of these different courtrooms, court is where you play ball. So a courtroom is where they basically became a bank, because that's what the bench is.
Yeah.
The judge is actually a banker who sits on a bench and determines, how much money you have to pay.
Yeah, and it's crazy that we have to pay money for mistakes that we make. You know what I mean? Like because it's all about money. It's the same with I got to go in 5 minutes, but I mean, I got to probably go before that because my show's in 5 minutes. But I mean, it's crazy how they make us pay taxes. Like I've never understood that. Like it's like I got to pay taxes on money that I make. You know what I mean? It's like it's insane. Like and then I got to pay taxes for food, for gas, for everything, cigarettes. I mean, I don't even want to smoke anymore, but I mean, like, I'm just saying, like, every single thing that we buy, we have to pay taxes on. You know what I mean? It's insane. It's insane. It's such a robbery and like a mockery. Like it's
Well,
like.
here's the thing to know, and this, mark my words, this is coming. So Trump has already announced that he's going to be removing the IRS taxes from people's paychecks. He is not a savior. He's going to pretend to be a savior, but he is a trump card on the American people. And he's going to pretend to bring all these things like he's doing it himself, but it's not him. This has already been preordained as part of the trickery to get people to accept the mark of the beast, which is this computer system and this digital AI world that we're now breaching into. But yes, that there's going to be all these amazing things. That's why I say there is a golden age coming, but it's going to be a dark golden age within a very dark time where Saturn rules Earth. Saturn is our dark lord, and he is the commander of all things in this existence. So it's going to be very challenging.
Wow. Wow. Well, I was going to say, if you ever want a copy of this interview, I can email it to you, and if you want to put it on your channel too, but do you want to tell everybody where they can find you? And thanks, Alan. This was great.
Yeah, so I have my own channel, which is ERA, ERA, of my ways. And then my email is wellenbe, WELLENBE, at yahoo.com if you need to contact me.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much. This was awesome. I'm so glad we got this in, and I'll probably post it tomorrow. Yeah.
Okay.
And thank you so much, Alan. And I'll talk to you soon.
Okay, great. Thanks,
Great,
Joel.
great.
Thanks for having me back.
Take care. Thank you.
Bye.